What absolutely hits me is the fact that shopping centre rents right across the country have been going up for years in an amount that is disproportionate to the amount of sales increases that the tenants inside the centre are generating. It is a national retail disgrace. That's correct. The rent is increasing far more than the sales are. So how do retailers keep up? And the data absolutely backs this up. We spoke with Peter Buckingham, who is an expert and has mined all of the data around shopping centre performance in relation to sales, and he's going to explain it all about why this is a national disgrace.
Hit it. That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
So all of this data you're basing this on, and you've talked about the inconvenient truth of shopping centres, and I refer to it more as a conspiracy of shopping centre rent in Australia. How can we trust this data that you've built this report on?
Well, I've got to say the Property Council of Australia is a very major organisation, and this data is provided by them. So the owners of most shopping centres are members of the Property Council, so they are actually trying to make their shopping centre look good. And they put out, the Property Council put out a document which we buy, and it tells us the data that is supplied by the owners of the shopping centres to them. So if the owners aren't telling the right truths, or, that could be a problem, but most of them are because they're trying to make their shopping centre look good by reporting as much as they can in their sales. So I'd like to think that there's no argument about the credibility of the data. It is the Property Council of Australia. Very major.
So with this knowledge about this, with there being very little growth within shopping centres, but there still being normal growth within shopping centre rents, why don't you think this has become a bigger issue, or that more people are talking about it, or are not talking about it, and why isn't there more activity and noise about it?
Well, I've made noises a couple of times along the lines of, instead of being the inquiry into franchising, we should be running an inquiry into shopping centre rents. And I guess one of the issues is most of us own parts of these shopping centres. It's all
through our super funds.
Through our super funds, and it's a bit like us owning banks. At the end of the day, most people don't want to hear the bad stories, but they all want to see the revenue come into their super fund. So they love seeing the shopping centres being valued at more money all the time. But the truth is that's at it's the lifeblood of the money coming in, is that you have to have tenants that are prepared to pay the rents. And these rents just keep going up astronomically over many, many, many years. And you ask yourself how far it can go, and it's a supply and demand argument. I'm sure the likes of Chadstone are probably going quite well still, but a lot of the other shopping centres are really struggling.
Would it be fair to say, I think when I was looking through the data there, that it seems to be that things like neighbourhood centres are bouncing back more so, and I even saw recently that in that latest data that you did there, that the central CBD type facilities were bouncing back.
Yes, it appears that way. So shopping centres are graded in 5 different ways. You start off with super regionals, which is over 85,000 square metres, so a big shopping centre. So your Chadstones, your Bondi Junctions, all of those sort of ones. Then you have major regional, which has 50 to 85,000 square metres. Then you have regional, which is 30 to 50,000 square metres. Sub-regional is 10 to 30,000 square metres. And then neighbourhood is less than 10. So I'll just go the other way. Typical of a neighbourhood is a modern shopping centre out a long way, which has a Woolworths or a Coles and probably 10 or 20 specialty stores, so the small one. Now they can look quite good because the dollars going through the Woolworths and the Coles is pretty big and it drags it up. The ones that are probably the next group go pretty well too. I'll call them the sub-regionals. They're the 10 to 30,000. Again, they're anchored by one or two, a supermarket, and they are in good locations. The ones to me that seem to be struggling are probably the major regionals. They don't have the same attraction as a super regional. They haven't got all the bells and whistles. They may not have a theatre, movie screens, things like that, but they're still quite big and still charging quite a lot of rent. So you're looking at, a few of these big major regionals have been moved up to super regionals, ones like the Glen, Doncaster in Melbourne. The big companies are still investing more and more into them, But the ones that are left at that sort of mid-range are probably the ones that are really struggling because they're just not as attractive as the super regionals for people to go to.
So they're basically no man's land, really.
Yeah, I'd call them a bit of no man's land. They're they're in the middle. What do you do? And in a lot of cases, they can't do that much. They might not have enough land, and all you can do is try and do the best with what you've got. Often the big super regionals, you're seeing them buying more land, expanding, adding movie theatres, al fresco areas. They're sort of trying to run with the times, but it's the middle ones that are really struggling.
So would you say that the focus for many shopping centres, is it's either black or white? So they're regional convenience in and out, and then the others are really trying to gear themselves up to be destination places?
Yeah, and I'd probably say that's very true. And that typical major regional shopping centre that's trying to be a destination is being hurt by a lot of the super regionals that are getting better and better, and it really can't get that much better. And then the smaller convenience ones, they'll sort of live on their own because they're out a fair way. People are just going to go there mainly for their groceries with a bit of other things. So it's that sort of discretionary spend, I guess, where the major regionals are probably suffering more than the super regionals.